For my project, I wanted to do something very near and dear to my heart, and that being Halo. Well, yes, the core gameplay of Halo is violent. That is not my focus. My favorite and most passionate aspects of the Halo series are its universe, its lore, its story. All the weapons featured in the games are entirely fictional, and for the purpose of this project will not be shown in use. Some of the weapons seem eerily similar to real-life weapons, such as the BR-55 battle rifle, can be argued to look like the former French service rifle, the F-1 FAMAS, and the MA-5B and C assault rifle variants can be argued to look like the Belgium FNF-2000. Bungie had no knowledge of these weapons' existence at the time of development, and similarities are purely coincidental. Now let's move on to the game itself, but first we should get to know who we are. The man on the right is the Master Chief, you, and the woman on the left is his sassy AI companion that lives in his head. The two of them were aboard a vessel known as the Pillar of Autumn, which crash landed on a mysterious ring world, and it is absolutely beautiful. Every set piece and backdrop is as beautiful as the last, and not to mention the spectacular areas that you visit along the way. Each one of Halo Combat Evolved's levels are beautiful in their own way. What's also beautiful are the Marines, the people you fight alongside. Always so joyful and gleeful at the sight of the jolly green giant striding into combat despite the insurmountable odds they've been set against, not to mention Sergeant Major Avery Johnson. Speaking of co-op, you can play this game co-op, and my brother and I did that for a very, very long time, way back in the early 2000s. Now this is what he saw, this is what I saw. And if you're thinking that's a little cramped, that's because it is. Halo Combat Evolved also didn't just feature co-op in the campaign, but co-op in multiplayer. It featured a LAN multiplayer, which is sort of a way to play against people locally. Now, 10 years after Combat Evolved's release, it got a visual remastering which made the game look like this to this. Now, what about the story? So there's these alien known as the Covenant who want to activate these giant rings, but we'll get to that later as to why they want to activate them. But we don't want them activated. The rings were designed to kill off a parasitic life form known as the Flood, whose every goal and ambition is to devour every sentient being in the galaxy, including us. To do that, it kills off its food source, us, and we don't want that happening, so Master Chief blew up the Autumn's fusion reactor. Sergeant Johnson hugged an elite, and Chief took the hoop out of Hula Hoop. Now we move on to my favorite Halo game, Halo 2. 10 years after its release, it also got a visual remastering, which is mainly what you'll be seeing, because it just looks cool. This being a Halo game, you'll obviously be playing as Master Chief, but a few familiar faces return, such as his AI Ancela Cortana and the ladies' man himself, Sergeant Johnson. Now, Halo 2 robustified the combat system from Halo Combat Evolved, but it also introduced us to the face of our enemy, the Covenant. Now, on trial here is our little golden boy for the failure to protect the Halo ring in Halo Combat Evolved. Remember, it's a religious artifact to them. And the three in front of him are the high prophets of the Covenant. They hold the most power, and their word is law. The high prophets of regret, truth, and mercy. Now, our little golden boy, because of his heresy, was turned into an arbiter, somebody who is used in times of extraordinary crisis and usually dies. Now, the Covenant's roster was also expanded in Halo 2. Pictured here is Tartarus, chieftain of the Brutes. Now, Halo 2 also gave us the reason as to why the Covenant value the Halo ring so much, because they believe that activating the Halo rings will send them onto the path of godhood, as their Forerunner ancestors did. Not really their ancestors, but their people they looked up to as gods. They figured they activated the rings, so we should too. Early in Halo 2, Regret's fleet accidentally invades Earth. While touching down on Earth, the Prophet of Regret tries to make a quick getaway by opening a portal in Earth's atmosphere in order to escape. Commander Miranda Keyes, Chief, and Johnson all follow Regret's carrier through the portal and end up finding another Halo ring. On the Halo ring, the Covenant have already mobilized trying to secure holy relics. And Chief does a pretty good job of stopping that. On top of Halo 2 offering a more robust combat system, they also allow you to dual wield, as pictured here. But as before, we were introduced to the Arbiter, you also get to play as him, which is pretty nifty. And he has some pretty spectacular levels that he's in. Now, on the Halo ring, the Master Chief introduces his left hand to the Prophet of Regret's jaw, and because of the Elite's failure to protect one of the High Prophets, they are subsequently relinquished from duty by the Prophet of Truth, citing that they can't protect the Prophets anymore. Now, the Arbiter is tasked with retrieving something called the Sacred Icon. It's the activation index for the Halo ring. Humanity, unfortunately, for the Covenant, gets there first and gets the icon, but Tartarus and his brutes get there and stop Keyes. Now, Tartarus claims that the Arbiter and his kind are not fit for the Covenant, and he says that he himself will see to their end. The Arbiter says that what he's doing is wrong and that the prophets will hear about it and they'll take his head, and Tartarus reveals that he was ordered to take out the Arbiter. Now, if you're faint of heart, I suggest you turn away. We are now introduced to the hive mind of the Flood, the Grave Mind, a vile, putrid beast of a mass intelligence, made of flesh and mind and bone. Gravemind opens the Arbiter's eyes to the lies he's been fed by the prophets, and he sends both the Chief and the Arbiter to hunt down the Sacred Icon to stop the activation of the Halo Ring. Meanwhile, in the Covenant, due to the Elite's relinquishment of the Guard, the Covenant have gone into a riot, sparking the Great Schism, where the Elites rebel against the Covenant. Now, Truth, with his hands on the sacred icon, gives it to Tartarus in order to activate the ring, while he flees to a foreigner ship in the center of their holy city in order to go to Earth. Truth wishes to return to Earth in order to find a portal. The Arbiter, with the aid of Sergeant Johnson, puts a stop to Tartarus activating the rings. Meanwhile, Master Chief boards the vessel Truth is on in order to get back to Earth and stop Truth. Now we move on to the multiplayer. This was the introduction of Xbox Live into the world, which allowed people to play with others across the globe and test their mettle to see how truly good they were at Halo 2. I was not really one of them because I was more interested in the campaign. As mentioned before, Halo 2 got a visual remastering, this being Halo 2 Classic, an Anniversary, and again, Halo 2 Classic, an Anniversary. Now we get to the long-anticipated Halo 3, but before I can even begin talking about this game, I have to talk about its marketing, because nothing built my anticipation and excitement for this game more than these trailers, and even now, they send chills down my spine. From the short and somber Starry Night, to the gritty and realistic Landfall, to the beautiful and spectacular Believe. Completely handcrafted and hand-painted, a diorama that depicts the battle between the Covenant and humanity. If there's anything you take away from this presentation, take this away. Watch this trailer. It's amazing. And finally, we can get to the game, where Master Chief jumps from Truth's ship and lands on Earth, but he survives because he has plot armor, and where our gravest foes become our strongest allies. Halo 3 had some pretty spectacular level design and some pretty great backdrops, as well as some pretty epic battles and even more grandiose engagements. But what's even more grandiose is the setting. This is the Ark. This is what Truth wanted to get to. From here, he can activate all of the Halo rings. When on the Ark, the Arbiter and Master Chief assassinate the Prophet of Truth, ending the Covenant, and put a stop to his activation of the Halo rings. But they discover that the ring that the Master Chief blew up is being rebuilt. In order to stop that, they prematurely activate it, which destroys the ring itself, as well as a portion of the Ark. But Halo 3 also upgraded the co-op partner. As you can see here, the co-op partner plays as the Arbiter, in which case, that was me. I was the Arbiter. But Halo 3 also allowed you to play with 2 other people, allowing for a 4-player split-screen co-op or online co-op. And what's even more than this is the official and difficult and grueling task of LASO, which stands for Legendary All Skulls On. My friends and I have taken up the challenge, and some of the skulls that it entails are pretty difficult. including but not limited to Black Eye, which makes it so your health only regenerates when you give the enemy a good old wallop, Mythic, which doubles the enemy's health values, Fog, which removes the handy-dandy motion tracker from the bottom left of the screen, Iron, which on co-op, when one player dies, it resets the checkpoint, and on solo, it resets the entire mission, and some of the more fun skulls like Grunt Birthday Party, where upon the death of a grunt, they explode into confetti with the joyful glee of children. Halo 3 also had a very robust multiplayer, the best multiplayer of any Halo game if you ask a majority of people, with some pretty great maps. From the satellite dishes of Standoff on Kilimanjaro in the top left, to the ominous and mysterious Foreigner Bridge on Epitaph, the dusty dunes of Sandtrap in the bottom left, and the gorgeous Valhalla in the bottom right. Halo 3 also allowed players to customize their armor, setting themselves apart from other players. With any number of customization options between the shoulders, chestplate, and helmet, anyone could make their own Spartan or their own elite in multiplayer. Which brings us to the end. Halo is a series very near and dear to my heart, and I hope that this presentation does the least bit to shed some light as to why. I'd like to give a very special thank you to the people who helped me create this, my friends who participated in Lasso, some less than others. And I'd also like to give a very special thank you to Bungie for creating the Halo series, and for 343 for taking up the almost impossible task of continuing Halo's legacy.